Should I go ahead? Okay, I'm going to get started. This is a cosmic session, and UCAR's arranged a great set of speakers. My name is Tony Mannucci. I'm also chairing the session. I'm at JPL. I'm the deputy section manager of 335, where a lot of the receiver work was done and the processing work that you heard about. And I'm also the first talk, and I'm going to talk about cosmic reminiscence and impact. And you'll see what, actually the stuff I have is different than what you've already heard, which is amazing. Um, so before Cosmic, I think the background is really important. There was Champ and SAC-C, and these were JPL developed receivers called Blackjacks. And these were really important in technology development for Cosmic because particularly on SAC-C, it was not an operational mission. And so as Tom Meehan and his cohorts were developing open loop tracking for Cosmic, they had multiple chances to upload software, test it, et cetera. So that was a really important step that sort of predated Cosmic. These were launched in 2000. I think I have it right. And I do want to acknowledge some really key NASA people during this period. John Lebrecq is essentially the person responsible for getting GPS receivers on Champ and SAC-C. And it was not a clean process. It was a maverick program manager at NASA that did that. And you heard a lot of sort of similar themes about people pushing the envelope, but that was definitely true. I want to acknowledge Rob Krasinski, who talked with Pierre Morel and Jack Kay at headquarters, actually Pierre Morel at the time. And essentially, they're the reason why JPL has a radio occultation processing group. So at this time, I was the supervisor of the group where Rob and George Hodge, two names you may know, were members. And so that was part of that. And, I just want to say, I was Rob Krasinski's boss. So that tells you. And then the race was on for a constellation. Okay, before Cosmic, I think we heard a little bit about this history from Tom. JPL wanted to do a constellation. And the person who really was most passionate about that was Tom Young. And he was, great, really pushing for that. So then, in the history, Cosmic is secured. It's a UCAR and NSPO partnership. You saw some dates related to that. I wasn't directly involved in that, but a big milestone was the Tau special issue in March 2000. So if you think about GPS Met went to 97, then we have this special issue in 2000. I think you saw some dates. So pretty fast, UCAR was able to get that partnership going and get a constellation going. And JPL had quite a major role in Cosmic. Oh, I wanted to say something. Oops, let me go do this. I want to say this, the race is on for a constellation, but the memory I have was UCAR coming to JPL, announcing Cosmic as a constellation, and just the feeling from some JPLers, probably particularly Tom Young, like, oh my gosh, we lost the race, and well, whatever, you don't win every race. But we had a big role in Cosmic. We provided the design for the receiver, including software. We partnered with Broadreach to transfer that hardware design, software, et cetera, to them. They built the receivers. We got the receivers back after they built them, and we performed independent testing and validation of the receiver. And Orbital Sciences, just as an aside, was responsible for the overall mission success. So they integrated the receiver, and they were responsible for overall mission success. And this kind of arrangement was not very typical for JPL at the time, and there's a lot of talk about it at the programmatic levels, but we made it work. And I think we were a really good partner. And I think we did a good job there. This is some of the sort of documents that from that period. This first graph is from Young's paper in the special issue, and it's a really great visual representation of what you can do with a GPS-based constellation. So it runs the gamut: ionosphere, ocean, solid Earth, atmosphere, and a lot of these applications have come to fruition. So it's pretty amazing, the excitement about a constellation like Cosmic. As Chris Rockin already alluded to, I put this in here because it used to be an 8-satellite constellation. And that just tells you how precarious, because you've heard a lot about that, how precarious every space mission is. Until it launches, you don't know what's going to happen. It was going to be 8. It became 6. And not only that, in this corner here, I used to have a letter from the community. JPL said, take it out. It looks like a memo and you didn't get that. I don't know. Anyway, so it was a letter from the community at an October 2007 workshop. Remember, COSMIC was launched in April 2006. Scientists learned that continuation of COSMIC beyond April 2008 was in doubt. That's 2 years. And there was a big scramble, and so there was a letter to the community by about 80 scientists to the U.S. Cosmic Interagency Working Group that includes government agencies, and whatever magic they did, and you heard about that, they got the thing continued. So with every mission, it's hard to get it established, and it's hard to keep it going. And then, interestingly enough, at about the same time, this is really interesting because this is December 2007, a mere year and a half after COSMIC launch. Tom Young had left JPL by that time, maybe related to his disappointment, and he founds Geo-Optics, and it's written about as a new era and how, Earth monitoring data will be acquired. So I thought that was really interesting timing, that soon after COSMIC launch, there was already companies forming to do commercial occultation. Here's some pictures. That's Larry Young from JPL testing a mock-up of the COSMIC antennas. These two antennas here are the occultation antenna, and this thing is the tri-band beacon. This is actually a transmitter, and it did create issues for the GPS receiver. So they really couldn't keep this on all the time, but there were other instruments besides radio occultation on COSMIC. This is a picture of COSMIC number 2 at Vandenberg Air Force Base being tested right before launch. And you can see Ian Harris, Larry Young, Tom Meehan, Dave Ector's here, Nick Yan used to be involved. And so that was some of that going on. Again, we were the prime for testing. Now I want to finish by talking about space weather. So I want to say that COSMIC definitely has had an impact in weather and climate, but in space weather, potentially the impact is much broader, but the modeling side is not as advanced, but it produced full electron density profiles, ionospheric images, quote unquote, and data assimilation. I'll show some of that in the next slide, but there was only a few ground-based instruments, 5 locations or so, that could produce an ionospheric profile like this. This is electron density versus altitude. All the other instruments in the ionosphere could do either, oops, wrong button, could do either the bottom side, and in the 70s, there was something that could do the topside sounder, but no instrument except for these 5 radars could do the full profile. So now you had satellites doing the full profile. That was pretty revolutionary. So in a sense, more revolutionary than what the atmospheric brought, although of course it's been very important for atmosphere. And I wanted to show you a paper from Charles Lin in Taiwan. They published this very soon after COSMIC launch. And it's instead of images of the electron density of the ionosphere, cuts in latitude and altitude at different times. And this is pretty remarkable. Nothing like this could have been produced before COSMIC. But it did take 2 months to get that data. So they couldn't do this every day or every few hours. So there's still a need for more ionospheric data. And I would say you'd want to probably be 10x or 100x more data to produce something like this at a higher cadence. Okay? Atmospheric profiles or atmospheric images like this are ubiquitous in the sense that you can look at a reanalysis and essentially get something like this. But in the ionosphere, it was never available. And COSMIC made that possible. JPL jumped in the ionospheric data assimilation game with something called the Global Assimilative Ionosphere Model. George Hodge was involved, Xiaoxing P and others. And the reason they did it was essentially COSMIC. There was now enough data to consider a concept like radio occultation. Like data assimilation in the ionosphere. Before COSMIC, you couldn't even think about doing something like that. There wasn't enough data. And this shows a comparison with an altimeter, modeling after and before data assimilation. The better agreement is after. And here's some cosmic slices with ground-based data and big improvement. And now we're working towards Space Weather Prediction Center at NOAA, SWPC, is using things like Cosmic to do their operational data assimilation. This is considered an experimental product, low TEC, and I'm showing you a total electron content map. It's not the full 3D, but this is a full 3D model. And there was another recent paper by Chi-Ting on community OSSI tool in the ionosphere. So again, all of these possibilities, operational data assimilation, community OSSI tools, they're enabled by things like Cosmic. So the space weather impact of those kinds of satellites is amazing. And I'm out of time. I want to be a good chair, and I'm going to quit now. But I'll say that, yeah, so let's try to get 10x, 100x more ionospheric profiles. And then it's hard to do ionospheric data assimilation with the electron density because you're not looking at the driver of electron density. It's like trying to do weather forecasts by measuring the CO2 in the atmosphere and how it changes. It's very hard to assert what the pressure of the atmosphere is doing. So anyway, okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah, okay, let's take a question.
May I ask the chairman if I may ask the previous speaker a question?
Yes, you may.
Okay. John Lebrecht, I forgot to mention him. John, I guess, was your boss at the time?
Well, he was at NASA headquarters when I knew him. He was at JPL for a while, but
he caused a problem for us at launch. He was came to the launch in where was it? Vandenberg.
Yeah.
And you might remember the slides I showed how rainy it was that day. That morning, we were arguing with him, and Jay Fine was involved about the data agreement. And he was adamant that this be free and open with no restrictions. And the current agreement we had with Taiwan is it would be free and open, but you had to sign an agreement saying that you would acknowledge the sponsors. And he said, when we had a contentious breakfast with Jay and me and John, and John said, I'm going to pull the plug on this if you don't get this agreement fixed. And Jay was just frantic because this was, 4 hours before launch. But he said, okay, we can go ahead with the launch, but I'm going to stop work if it's not solved. And the thing launched and was up and was starting to give data. And he stopped JPL from working on the processing of the data. But even, this is kind of a story on Jay. Even after that contentious breakfast, Jay gave up his spot in the warm control center. John was going to have to be out in the rain. And Jay gave up his spot to John Lebrecht, just as a goodwill, even though they had had a huge argument before. And the funny thing is, years later, NASA starts buying data with restrictions.
All right, no comment. That sounds like John, and thank you. That's a very interesting story. Okay.
Thank you.
Bill Crow is next. You don't need any introduction.
I hope not. Okay, so this afternoon we heard a lot of the history on GPS MET and Cosmic 2, and our speaker Rick Antis gave a lot of credit to many people who have been involved in